What's up, people? Joe Winko here, your favorite Hawaiian guy, and here's my next episode of Joe Winko Talk. So, this really isn't going to be a happy episode of Joe Winko Talk. I mean, some parts of it may be happy, depending on which way you decide to see this episode in. But what I'm going to be discussing in this episode of Joe Winko Talk is pretty serious, really. So, for those of you who've been following me on YouTube, you guys should all know this by now. I finally live in a different part of Florida, a part of Florida that I'm very happy to be living in, a part of Florida where I feel much safer living in, honestly. Mainly because I'm away from my adoptive dad's brothers who weren't taking coronavirus seriously, and I'm really happy to be away from them. But that isn't the only reason why I'm happy to be away. I never really would talk about this a while ago, but where I actually used to live in Florida was Pinellas County. That was the first place in Florida I moved to a few years ago. Even before I arrived in Pinellas County, I always knew that Pinellas County was not the place that I wanted to spend the rest of my life in. I mean, don't get me wrong, I was happy to be there, and I was happy to be away from Wisconsin. That was mainly the main thing. I was just really happy to be down in Florida and to be living in Florida. But I always knew, ever since the first day I moved to Pinellas County, that that was not the place where I wanted to spend the rest of my life at. The reason why is because around that time, it was right after Hurricane Irma, and I remember I was watching Hurricane Irma on the news, and that's kind of how I got back into hurricanes, because I've been through hurricanes before, because I used to live in the Dominican Republic with my biological uncle, and we've been through two major hurricanes, but we were far enough away from the water in a mountainous area where we were safe from the hurricanes, and we didn't have to worry about the storm surge or anything, because that's the most dangerous part of a hurricane. Hurricane Irma almost destroyed Tampa Bay. The reason why it didn't is because it came up the center of Florida instead. It came up the land in the peninsula, but had it came up the water, it would have caused a 30-foot storm surge that would have destroyed the Tampa Bay area and Pinellas County, where I would have been moving to. They got lucky that time, but it's only a matter of time before a major hurricane ends up striking Pinellas County and destroying Pinellas County and Tampa Bay. The thing is, while I was living down there, it didn't even seem like people thought that that was actually possible. A rumor that I would keep hearing over and over again is that people would say that Pinellas County will never be hit by a hurricane because a Native American tribe put a spell on Pinellas County to protect it from hurricanes. But as I said in my last episode of Joe Winko Talk, spells are never 100%. Really. Magic is never 100%. Science isn't even 100%. And even medical stuff is never even 100%. You can't always rely on that. What I notice is that normal-minded people actually don't really seem to worry about stuff like this or even consider stuff like this, honestly. Everyone wants to live near the beach. Everyone wants to live near the water. Everyone thinks that they're going to have a fine, dandy life near the water. But I think it's because of me and my autism mind that I'm actually able to see that that's not a good idea and that it's not worth it, really, because it's extremely expensive to live near the beach in the first place. The town that I'm living in right now is a lot cheaper than Pinellas County in the first place anyway. And plus, it's safe from hurricanes. I don't have to worry about a huge storm surge destroying my home at all. I remember every time around October while I was living in Pinellas County, around September, August, or October, I would always look at the hurricane tracker to make sure that no storms were coming my way. I still look at it nowadays, but I don't have to worry about it anymore because I'm 30 miles away from the nearest beach, and I'm really happy about that. Don't have to worry about hurricanes or storm surge. The worst thing that would happen if a really powerful hurricane ended up making landfall, by the time it would reach my area, the only bad thing that would happen is a severe power outage, and that's basically it. But I wasn't safe in Pinellas County. If you guys seriously want to know, the exact area that I was living in was Clearwater, near Highway 19 and Whitney Road. Let me show you guys a picture of that area right now. This was it right here. That's the road I used to live by, Highway 19, the road that goes all the way to Erie, Pennsylvania, and I definitely remember that intersection. I remember being really happy to be there. The only reason why I was happy at first was because I was out of Wisconsin. But I remember when I moved down there, I felt this feeling of dread. The reason why is because I knew that area was susceptible to hurricanes. But also because it was way too crowded too. There's a lot of stupid people living in Pinellas County, and a lot of meth heads and drug dealers and everything like that. Whenever I'd go for a walk, I'd always run into someone who would ask me if I had a cigarette lighter. Like every time I went out, I would run into someone who would ask me that. But that's a whole nother story. I didn't feel safe living there. Even before COVID, I didn't feel comfortable living in Pinellas County because I always knew that there was a possibility that a horrible hurricane was going to make landfall and destroy the whole place. Now, don't get me wrong, I definitely would be able to get away and get out in time because I'm always able to find a ride out, especially if a really bad hurricane's going to come. You think there'd at least be one person smart enough to evacuate, and I could easily hitch a ride with them. As a matter of fact, I actually did that a couple times, really. The first time I tried evacuating was in 2019 during Hurricane Dorian. Everyone kept saying at first that Hurricane Dorian was going to make landfall on the East Coast, but I was worried that it was going to cut across the peninsula of Florida, and then once it got into Tampa Bay and the waters of Tampa Bay, it would re-strengthen, and then it would make landfall again in Pinellas County and wash out Pinellas County. Because Pinellas County is surrounded by water. It's a peninsula within the Florida peninsula. That whole area is vulnerable to storm surge. So I posted an ad on Craigslist and I typed in that I was worried about the storm that was coming and I wanted to get away from the water. One person living in Polk County even told me, hey, if you're that worried, I could come pick you up and we can spend a night in Polk County till the storm passes. And he told me that he lived in a log cabin out in Polk County. But the thing was, the hurricane didn't end up going across Florida at all. It didn't even touch Florida. It ended up shifting north and going north. So when that happened, he didn't come to pick me up and take me to Polk County. And I was a bit upset about that because I was looking forward to the adventure, really, because I never really spent much time in Polk County. That was in year 2019. But in year 2020, there was another hurricane, and it was Tropical Storm Ada. Now, Tropical Storm Ida, or Ada, they kept pronouncing it as Ada, but I'm assuming it's pronounced Ida. Tropical Storm Ida was just a tropical storm. It wasn't really a hurricane. I mean, I believe they said that it was going to re-intensify to a Category 1, but it caused some pretty bad damage to Pinellas County. It flooded Gulfport in Pinellas County, and you guys remember way back in 2018 when I used to do those live streams on the beach? That beach that I was actually doing those live streams on, that was the Courtney Campbell beach along the Courtney Campbell Causeway. That beach was actually flooded during Tropical Storm Ida, and that was just a tropical storm. Imagine if it would have been a Category 5 hurricane. That whole place would have been washed out. What I did then was I posted an ad on Craigslist, and I wanted to get away because I was worried about the hurricane, and I managed to find someone to get away with. I posted it on the rideshare section of Craigslist. This one person who was visiting Pasco County on business, but they were in inland Pasco County. We mainly just stayed in the hotel room and watched the news the whole entire time and waited for the storm to pass. Yeah, he was really scared about it too because he was from California and he wasn't too familiar with hurricanes or tropical storms. But he saw my videos on YouTube and he thought they were really cool. Yeah, shout out to Greg. I'm not sure if you're still watching me nowadays, but shout out to Greg. Thank you for getting me out of the path of Tropical Storm Ida. Fast forward to summer of 2021, there was Tropical Storm ELSA, and it wasn't really clear on exactly where ELSA was going to go, but it seemed like it was going to take aim on the west coast of Florida to Pinellas County. They said that it was going to be weak, either a tropical storm or a Category 1, but still, I didn't take my chances with it at all. I posted online on the rideshare section of Craigslist that I wanted to get away because I was worried about Tropical Storm ELSA, and someone else replied to that post, and we went into Wesley Chapel, and we stayed in Wesley Chapel until the storm passed. And Wesley Chapel, I mean, it's still too close to the water, really. You would still get really bad wind damage if your house isn't well constructed. But it's safe from storm surge because it's so far inland, so I felt much safer there than waiting in Clearwater. But now I don't even have to worry about that at all because I don't live in Pinellas County. But still, it's only a matter of time before a really bad hurricane wipes out Pinellas County. And it actually has happened before. In 1921, there actually was a hurricane that struck Pinellas County as a Category 3, a super powerful storm. Not extremely powerful, but still very, very powerful. That same storm also killed 150 people in the Tampa Bay area. At that time, there weren't many people living in Pinellas County or in the peninsula of Florida because that was before the Sunbelt region of the USA grew, because once air conditioning was invented, that's when everyone started moving to Florida. Had a storm with that same intensity hit today, it would have been much more devastating. There was also another hurricane that ended up striking Sarasota, a town south of Tampa Bay, but still in the same general area. It killed 300 people. In addition to that, there was also another hurricane in year 1848, which ended up striking Tampa Bay as a Category 4. This storm happened a really long time ago, so there was not much information available about it, but what is known is that this storm was so powerful that it literally reshaped the area of Tampa Bay and Pinellas County, and literally changed the geography of Pinellas County. I even read on Wikipedia that the sailors who went around that area, they claimed that their maps were useless because the hurricane damaged the landscape so bad that it was unrecognizable. That was way back in 1848, long before air conditioning was ever invented and long before so many people were moving to Tampa Bay. But if a storm that powerful actually hit, it would be far more devastating to Tampa Bay, especially Pinellas County. I want to show you something. This is a map of all the storm surge that would be piled up onto Pinellas County and Hillsborough County, the same county that Tampa is part of. Storm surge is when a hurricane makes landfall, the low pressure of the hurricane causes water to rise and flow onshore. That's actually the most deadly part of a hurricane, as I explained in my old episode of Joe Winko Talk of me talking about hurricanes. I'll have a link to that in the pinned comments of this video. 90% of people who die in hurricanes actually die from the storm surge. The water destroys everything and ruins everything and is capable of tearing buildings down as well. This is a map of how much water would flood Pinellas County and Hillsborough County if a Category 5 hurricane ended up striking the area. There it is right there. The area that I used to live in would be completely underwater. Even parts of downtown Tampa would be flooded. It's estimated that thousands of people would die. It would literally be as bad as Hurricane Katrina, especially because the mindset of people down there. People don't think that anything like that can happen. They don't believe that hurricanes can hit Pinellas County, but it's only a matter of time before one actually does. It's not worth it, really. I mean, it's very expensive to live in Pinellas County to begin with because there's so many beaches, but it's not fun living there either. There's so many stupid people, so many stupid meth heads and everything, and I hated living with my adoptive dad's brothers, and my adoptive dad's brothers are idiots. I mean, well, you guys know that by now, but my adoptive dad's brothers are idiots. They don't even think it's possible for a hurricane to hit Pinellas County. But it's only a matter of time before one does. Of course, I don't have to worry about it at all, but to the people of Pinellas County, it's going to have very severe consequences. As a matter of fact, a lot of experts say that the Tampa Bay area and Pinellas County is overdue for a direct impact from a hurricane. They even made hypothetical simulations on it, and I remember watching these when I first moved down to Florida, and it was honestly terrifying, and I still think it's scary right now. I have a couple of them right here, and I'm going to show them to you guys. I'm not going to watch the whole entire videos, though. I edited them down a bit. But I'm going to show them to you guys, and I'm going to react to them, and I'm going to have the links to all of them in the pinned comments of this video. Here's the first one. Let's get it started. 3, 2, 1, now.
The United States is no stranger to devastating hurricanes, but few people spend their time thinking about the next one. Here in Tampa Bay, it's easy to just live in the moment. But this is one of the most vulnerable areas in the country to extreme weather and rising sea levels. Global warming is likely to bring more of both. Tampa Bay hasn't been hit by a major hurricane since 1921, but there's been no lack of near misses. Some scientists point to location, others to luck. Most agree that the city is overdue for the next big storm.
When there's a storm anywhere in the Atlantic Ocean, and I keep a watchful eye upon it.
Mark Luther studies the effects of climate change and lives with the risks. A professor of marine science, he's seen water from the bayou steadily encroach on his low-lying neighborhood in St. Petersburg.
A major hurricane, if it came right up Tampa Bay in just the right direction, could completely cover this house and most of the houses in this neighborhood.
In 2010, Tampa Bay's Planning Council released a simulation of what could happen if a Category 5 hurricane hit. It was called Project Phoenix. The report found that nearly 500,000 buildings could be destroyed, 41 million tons of debris could pile up, and more than 2,000 people could lose their lives. Across Tampa Bay, analysts estimate more than 1.5 million buildings could be destroyed in a Category 5 storm, costing the city up to $175 billion. In a major storm, NOAA predicts the bridges leading to the Tampa hospital could be compromised, making it nearly inaccessible. Despite these drastic warnings, developers are betting on a bright future. The city's port is getting an upgrade, and there's a building boom on the waterfront.
That's typical for Pinellas
Maya
County.
Burke sits on the Planning Council. She says complacency about climate change is hard to overcome.
Because it's not urgent in the everyday worry sense that people are thinking about, there might be a tendency to put it off and think that we can act later. But we can't. Really, the time to act is now if we want to make this place resilient so that we can still be comfortable and enjoy the way of life that we have here in Tampa Bay.
Mark knows that life here is tenuous, but he doesn't dwell on it.
Every morning when I walk out to get the paper, I see dolphins frolicking in the bayou.
The dolphins were really cute. I will give them
walking
that.
Around the edge of the bayou, so it tends to make you forget about all those sorts of things.
But you know, that's the thing. Like, people don't even think about that at all. And by the time it actually all starts happening, it's already too late. Here's another one. This is a hypothetical scenario of how it would be if a Category 5 hurricane ended up striking Tampa Bay.
Joining us, the National Hurricane Center has upgraded our entire viewing area to a hurricane warning as Hurricane Phoenix is projected to make landfall as a major hurricane sometime tomorrow. Mandatory evacuations are in effect for all coastal regions. Forecasters say this storm could be one of the strongest ever to hit the Tampa Bay region.
We cannot stress enough how crucial it is that you finish your storm preparations tonight. Conditions will deteriorate rapidly tomorrow morning and evacuation routes will quickly become impassable. Please don't take this lightly and heed all evacuation orders.
That is not good.
Folks, this is unfortunately the worst case scenario unfolding for the Tampa Bay area. Phoenix is now a Category 5 hurricane with maximum sustained winds at 160 miles an hour, but wind gusts up to 200 miles per hour. This is catastrophic. It is a historic storm and unfortunately making a beeline right now for our area.
We have a live look right now at North Tampa and Polk Street. I believe this is near Kawa Coffee, and as you can see, the storm surge has completely inundated downtown.
Law enforcement now is reporting that all bridges have been cut off by storm surge.
Storm surge is like a tsunami. It wipes things out.
Storm surge in some spots.
We're trapped on the third floor of the Tampa General Hospital parking garage, and the storm surge is up to the second floor of the hospital.
St. Petersburg is essentially an island right now.
The beaches are essentially gone.
The Howard Franklin Bridge is completely destroyed.
Yeah,
I've never seen anything like this.
Officials are scrambling to clean up debris from local airports in order for supplies to be flown in. We are getting reports from Homosassa of residents trapped by downed trees.
There's not a single business that we've driven by that doesn't have significant damage.
Tampa General Hospital has told us that they are unable to receive any patients after the hospital suffered significant damage from wind and storm surge. The level of destruction out here is indescribable. It's going to be a very long road to recovery for the Tampa Bay area.
Gosh, that is absolutely terrible that that's all going to happen. But it is, and people just don't believe it at all. So here is the last simulation video. This is the one that I saw when I first moved to Florida, and this is the most chilling. Let me show it to you guys right now. It's not the whole entire video. I had to scale it down, but if you want to watch the whole video, I'll have a link to it in the pinned comments. 3, 2, 1... now.
Hi, I'm 10 Connect's Chief Meteorologist Tammy Souza. We want to bring you up to date on a turn of events out in the tropics. We've been watching this tropical storm, Phoenix, and it's out here just to the south of Puerto Rico. It is now strengthened to a Category 1 hurricane.
Well, Jim, we do have a problem. We have a new hurricane. That's Hurricane Phoenix. It was a tropical storm earlier today, but now it's reached hurricane intensity. The good news, it's only a Category 1. But notice what I put up here. Now, those of you in Tampa and St. Petersburg, this is still a long way out, but it's October, and the favorable hurricane track is to go to the northwest and then turn back toward Florida. You can see this system is going to come up here as a Category 1 hurricane, move by the Cayman Islands here in about 24 hours. But notice, major hurricane in the Gulf of Mexico in about 4.5 to 5 days, and that's bad news. Well, Jim, it just keeps getting worse now. We've got another update, and we have a 105-mile-per-hour Category 2 hurricane, and it's rapidly intensifying here right near the Yucatan Channel.
Well, the latest with potentially catastrophic Hurricane Phoenix. This is now a Category 5 hurricane expected to move to the northeast and make landfall sometime around noon in central Pinellas County. And, of course, the winds counterclockwise around this area of low pressure will push water into the bay and cause storm surge flooding as much, even in downtown Tampa, over 21 feet, perhaps even a little bit higher than that. It will literally flood the barrier islands and push water up into northern Manatee County into the river here, and that'll cause flooding all the way along that region. 160-mile-per-hour winds, and of course that will cause damages to at least half of the structures in and around the Tampa Bay area, especially on the beaches and anywhere that may be affected by water, because that water is going to surge into the bay and have nowhere to go and cause flooding anywhere from Apollo Beach to the Port of Tampa to Oldsmar, even around eastern Pinellas County and downtown St. Petersburg.
Where I used to live and where my adoptive dad's brothers still are.
911.
Yes. Water is all in the house. The roof is completely caved in on us. We need emergency assistance, please.
Okay, man, we can't respond right now because of the condition of the hurricane.
That was the scariest part, really, but that's what they do. If you can't evacuate, you get left behind, no one comes to help you. You're just left there for dead. Just like my South Carolina backstabbers in the Carolinas. I have a link to that video in the pinned comments of this one.
So many people did not heed warnings to evacuate. Rescuers are challenged to find ways back out on the islands and into hard-hit areas to conduct search and rescue operations.
Of course they wouldn't evacuate.
Currently,
they think they're
there
going to
are
be safe at home.
165 known deaths, and more than 30,000 are missing.
Would die than
According to the preliminary damage assessments, at least 1 million buildings were at least moderately damaged.
Oh, yeah.
That is over 67% of the total number of buildings in the Tampa Bay area.
County.
An estimated 480,000 structures are completely
Pasco
destroyed.
I didn't
Before
like
the
Pinellas,
hurricane,
but I
the
liked
region had
Pasco.
approximately
I wouldn't want it to
14,000
get
hospital beds
destroyed,
available
but that's
for
a sad
use.
thing, really.
It is estimated that 42 of our 57 hospitals received at least moderate damage. 60% of our fire stations and police stations have been damaged. The sheer amount of debris is overwhelming and will become a health hazard in many communities. It is estimated that 48 million tons of debris will be generated, enough to fill 1.5 million trucks.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
The port of Tampa is severely damaged with the potential for an environmental catastrophe. There were many metric tons of anhydrous ammonia, sulfuric acid, and phosphoric acid in the tank farms prior to the storm. In addition, we have lost the millions of gallons of petroleum stored there. The channels leading into the port facilities are filled with debris, and the Skyway Bridge has been damaged and will need to be assessed prior to reopening the port.
Oh yeah.
We lost everything.
Pinellas Park, I lived
An
right
estimated
by there.
843,000 households have been displaced due to this disaster. Approximately 300,000 have sought shelter in existing shelters, as well as other local schools, churches, and businesses.
It can't be replaced is the biggest thing.
Vicki Dryden is searching for her wedding album. Photos taken 61 years ago.
And
She's
that's the
found a
thing, that's why I
handful of
was
other
worried.
family
I didn't-
heirlooms,
like, even if I
but keeps
managed to get
searching
away,
for
my
that wedding
stuff
book.
might get damaged and home will get
Economically,
damaged.
there is an estimated building-related loss of $200 billion. Bridge and road closures are impacting response and recovery operations. The devastation to the region is almost unimaginable.
It will be unimaginable. That's the thing. See, that's the reason why it's not worth it living in Tampa or St. Petersburg at all, really. And in case you guys haven't noticed, I seriously do not want to go back to Clearwater, ever. Don't want to go back to St. Petersburg, ever. Don't want to live in Tampa Bay ever again. I always wanted to live in inland Florida, and that's a very good reason for me not to, really. I mean, because of all that. So that's basically all that I really wanted to talk about in this episode of Joe Winko Talk. I just wanted to let you guys know that I'm very thankful that I do not live in Tampa Bay anymore. And when that catastrophe happens, I will not be affected by it. And for those of you who are true fans of me, I want you guys to be grateful for that too, really. I mean, it's not, I don't get why so many people want to live in that area, because it's just a disaster waiting to happen. And you know, as soon as something like that actually does happen, if a Category 5 hurricane ends up striking Pinellas County, Tampa Bay, Tampa, and all that area, that place is really crowded and really overpopulated right now. People aren't going to want to live there anymore. That's the same thing that happened with the Galveston hurricane. Galveston used to be a thriving city and everything until that Category 4 hurricane ended up striking it and killed a whole bunch of people. And nowadays, Galveston is just a small vacation spot that hardly anyone lives at, really. History is only going to repeat itself. I don't mean to be pessimistic at all, though, but I just never liked Clearwater or Pinellas County. Didn't have any friends there, didn't like the people I was living with, felt unsafe in the area even before COVID because I was worried about hurricanes, and definitely during COVID because people there are so stupid. But I guess this isn't really a sad episode of Joe Winko Talk at all. It isn't negative either, because I'm happy that I don't live in that area anymore. And that's the main reason why I wanted to do this episode of Joe Winko Talk, to discuss this and tell you guys how grateful I am for not living in Pinellas County or Clearwater at all. But also to show you guys where I used to live, since I thought you guys might find that interesting. So, what did you guys think of this episode of Joe Winko Talk? Do you agree with me that living in Clearwater is a really bad idea? I honestly never want to go back there, and yeah, the odd thing was, there was this one guy who lived in Clearwater. For some reason, like as soon as I moved away, we only talked on Grindr a couple times. He decided that he fell in love with me and that he wanted me to be with him. And he probably was drunk, really. That's usually the case when a guy tells me that. He said that he wanted me to come back to Pinellas County and live with him, and I was like, no way I am coming back to Pinellas County. Even if I'm not living with my adoptive dad's brothers, there's no way I'm going back to Pinellas County. And then he blocked me right after that, and I was like, okay, whatever. Have fun being ravaged by a Category 5 hurricane. Yeah, but I don't have to worry about that stuff anymore, and I'm very thankful and very happy about that. I definitely still do watch the hurricane tracker, really just out of curiosity, really. But I'm definitely not worried about that anymore, really, and I'm happy about that. So, sorry if this was a strange episode of Joe Winko Talk. I'm kind of out of it because I was awake all night, but I hope you guys all enjoyed watching it, and let me know what you think, and let's get a conversation started. So don't forget to like, don't forget to comment, don't forget to subscribe, and don't forget to like me on Facebook and follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Tumblr. So that's it. Peace out, people.